We are singing through the longest night. Keep the fire burning. Have faith, we are returning, returning to the light. The crescent moon curls just above the pines, and the northern star is anchored in the sky. Clouds are slowly lifting, the snow is faintly drifting, and the fields are dressed in icy shades of white. We are bringing in the light. We are singing through the longest night. Keep the fire burning, have faith, we are returning, returning to the light. The glorious light, the glorious light. We are bringing in the light. Light a fire and let the smoke rise through the trees. Light a candle in an ancient prayer for peace. We will sing in celebration this hymn of invitation to awaken from our silent winter sleep. We are bringing in the light. We are singing through the longest night. Faith, we are returning, returning to the light, the glorious light, the glorious light. We are bringing in the light. When it seems we've been forsaken by the sun, and our journey through the dark goes on and on, stand still for a moment. The spell of night is broken, and the darkest hour surrenders to the dawn. We are bringing in the light. We are singing through the longest night. Keep the fire burning, and faith, we are returning, returning to the light, the glorious light, the glorious light. We are bringing in the light. We are singing through the longest night. Keep the fire burning, have faith, we are returning, returning to the light, the glorious light, the glorious light. We are bringing in the light.
Good morning and welcome. Here are your announcements. COVID-19 app. Protect yourself and others by downloading the free smartphone app. It protects your privacy and your health. On Wednesday, December the 2nd, from 10:15 until 11:30, Phyllis Danu is going to be hosting conscious movement classes, and you can reach her at phyllisdanu@gmail.com. Wednesdays, our meditation continues on Zoom with Reverend Wayne and Jillian. This is for beginners and intermediates from 7:30 to 8:30. Wednesday and Thursdays, Sandwich Sisters. Fight poverty by preparing sandwiches for local charity. This is supported by our own C committee. Reach out to Suzanne for any details. On Sunday, December the 5th, please join the Child Caregiver Program with Zee Getchell in our regular Sunday Zoom space. That begins at 9 a.m. December 25th, well, that's what we're heading for. Buy a tree and support the Out of the Cold program. They're on sale at our new building, and you can reach out to Suzanne or to Dina Walk for detail. Now that our AV equipment is up and running, we are looking for volunteers that have an affinity for electronics. As the folks on today's preparation will tell you, that's not me. Please contact Fred to keep you up to date on training sessions. And you can reach Fred at that email address. Calling all painters. This Tom Sawyer can tell you this is a lot of fun. Fred has a couple of small painting projects to do in the sanctuary, and he needs a couple more folks to help us out. You can contact him at the number on your screen. Morning chant. Our next one will be prior to service next Sunday from 9:30 until 10:15 a.m. Please join us in the Zoom breakout room prior to service. It's easy to learn multi-faith songs, and when Fred doesn't have his paintbrush, he's going to be leading this along with Phyllis and Suzanne. Everyone is welcome. Chris Emanuel's Love is Love series continues in our space until the 15th of December. Everyone is welcome. COVID screening is in effect. If you'd care to visit, please reach out to our office from Monday to Friday, 9 until 9, and the number is on your screen. This week's question. In the course of the service, please ponder the following. How has the idea of sanctuary been present in your life? And in what ways can you expand this understanding? This one feels really good. I can announce to the community that we now have a full slate of board candidates to present to you next Sunday. And yeah, I still have to have a good cry over this one. Thank you so much to my partner in good, Dina Walk, as well as Kathy Campbell, and for all who have served and who are stepping up to serve. Thank you. And now I will call, will I call? Yes, I will.
Yeah.
I'd like to call on Christina for another announcement.
Hello, everyone. I would like to announce that next Sunday we're having a joining ceremony. Don't be intimidated. I mean, this is for anyone who wishes to join neighborhood. It's a simple ceremony that will take place during service, and is just basically an affirmation that you wish to join our congregation. And the affirmation will be for our congregation to accept you into our community. If you have any questions or if you have any questions, I will remain in in the main room. You can see me after service. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Join us in person or via Zoom for our second hybrid service. That's going to be including a water communion service on Sunday, December the 5th in our space. We ask that you arrive by 10:15 so that you can be screened for vaccination, etc. Next Sunday's theme is Chosen Family, Courage and Generosity. Our minister, Reverend Wayne Walder, will be presenting the message of inspiration, and Suzanne and friends will offer our music. It's kind of like getting a scratch on a new car. This is my first time up to bat, guys, so there's the scratch. Welcome to our Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation service here on Zoom. We welcome you this morning as we alternate between in-person meeting and online services. Thank you for joining us. My name is Douglas Crozier, and I am your newest virtual service weaver, and I'm joining you from my home. Both our musical director, Suzanne Mazaris, and our minister, Reverend Wayne, are taking a well-deserved day off. We are very pleased to welcome Jane Lewis as our musical guest and Reverend Danielle Webber, whose congregation is the Kelowna Unitarians. She will provide this morning's message of inspiration, wherein she will help us to unpack the term sanctuary as she shares, amongst other things, about her observation around individuals experiencing homelessness as they sought shelter in that church in Kelowna. Zee Getchell facilitates our Sunday Child and Caregiver program and will share a time for all ages, pardon me, also from his home. And we thank Mike Kosowski, who does our Zoom web hosting and editing duties. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone who's here and contributing to this morning's service. Some Zoom etiquette. Just a reminder to please stay muted and keep the chat open for readings and for lyrics, and don't please send chat messages to everyone during service. This can be quite distracting. Closed captioning is available. You click at the bottom of your screen to start or to stop it, and you can make the chat bigger by pressing Command plus on Mac and Control plus on PC. This service is being recorded for the public, both on YouTube and on our new website. Joys and concerns or any similar personal moments will be edited out. If you have any further privacy concerns, you can turn off your camera when you're so that you're not seen, and you could also rename yourself. Now that we've got the introductions and the technical stuff out of the way, you are invited to shut off all other devices, tune away from anything that might distract you, and perhaps put your device on Do Not Disturb. There is nowhere else to be. There is nothing else to do. Just simply be here now. This is the threshold moment that I spoke of, and let's now enter sacred space together. As our service begins, we light our chalice. I encourage you to light your own chalice, or consider holding your hands in the shape of a chalice. However you choose to participate, please join us as we sing.
We light this chalice to remember, to light the fire within our own hearts.
It's now my pleasure to introduce our musical guest, Jane Lewis. Jane is a singer-songwriter, a workshop facilitator, and I really like the sound of this. She calls herself a musical instigator. Jane also offers community song circle events, as well as women's weekend music retreats. Throughout the pandemic, Jane has been facilitating weekly vocal meditations and virtual song sessions in the land of Zoom. Welcome, Jane. Would you like to introduce our prelude, please?
Yes, thank you, Doug, and thank you all for having me this morning. I talked with Suzanne earlier about what songs I might play for you or with you today, and I wasn't sure about this particular song, what I was going to choose. And so I sent her a list of about 8 songs, like I could do any of these, and I don't even think she looked at the whole list. She just saw Poor Wayfaring Stranger and said, oh, you have to do that one, that it was one that you all have enjoyed in the past. So I'm going to play and sing Poor Wayfaring Stranger, and I hope you will sing along with me at home. I chose the verses that I like the best. This song has a number of verses, and then I put in a humming instrumental verse, so you could hum along. You can, if you know another verse that you enjoy, then you can put that in as well. So do what you like in that verse. But here we go. This is Poor Wayfaring Stranger. I am a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe, and there's no sadness, toil, nor danger in that fair land to which I go. I'm going there to meet my mother. I'm going there, no more to roam. Well, I'm just going over Jordan. I am just going over home. I know dark clouds will gather o'er me. I know my way is rough and steep, but golden fields lie out before me, where weary eyes no more shall weep. I'm going there to see my father. I'm going there, no more to roam. Well, I'm just going over Jordan. I am just going over home. La da da, da da da, la da da, la da da, da da da, da da da, I'm going there to see my loved ones. I'm going there, no more to roam. And I'm just going over Jordan. I am just going over home. I am just going over Jordan. I am just going over home. I am just going over Jordan. I am just going over home.
Thank you so much. Today, almost all of us are in our own homes. Let us please remember that these homes are on the traditional land and territories of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Haudenosaunee nations. Indigenous peoples have been acknowledging the land, their land, at the start of gatherings, ceremonies, and events from time immemorial. It feels perhaps even more relevant as we turn our focus to today's message. As I readied for today's services, my thoughts turned to Travis. I didn't know Travis before the pandemic. He's a young, marginalized, troubled man who's been more noticeable in my neighborhood these last few months. I offer him hot soup and a kind hello. I don't feel that's enough. It's also not lost on me that growing up in a house that was often unsafe has colored my own relationship with myself, with a sense of deserving and a comfort that, to be honest, I seldom garner from my own abode. Indeed, a large part of my practice in these pandemic months has been focusing on turning my house into a home. Using and participating in a land acknowledgement is a way to show respect to indigenous people, and it serves as a reminder that we are all responsible to maintain and to deepen right relations. If you're visiting us for the first time, we welcome you. We invite you to stay around after service. If you don't choose to go to a breakout room, our service weaver coordinator, Peter, will be in the main room to answer any questions that you might have about who we are and what we do. And as Christina mentioned, she'll also be there. Our mission at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of the world. This month's theme is fittingly sanctuary. This morning's reading is written by the Unitarian Universalist minister and writer, Reverend Dr. Thandeka, and it's titled The Legacy of Caring. Despair is my private pain, born from what I have failed to say, failed to do, failed to overcome. Be still, my inner self. Let me rise to you. Let me reach down into your pain and soothe you. I turn to you to renew my life. I turn to the world, the streets of the city, the worn tapestries of brokerage firms, crack dealers, private estates, personal things in the bag lady's cart, rage and pain in the faces that turn from me, afraid of their own inner worlds. This common world I love anew as the lifeblood of generations who refuse to surrender their humanity in an unhumane world courses through my veins. From within this world, my despair is transformed to hope, and I begin anew the legacy of caring. Traditionally, at this time, we would ask that you turn to your neighbor and greet them. Now, briefly unmute your device, switch to gallery view, and offer a greeting to those around you. We will sound a chime to end. Please take a moment to greet your neighbors.
Bev, welcome.
Good morning,
Good
neighbor.
morning.
Good
morning.
morning.
Hi,
Laura.
Hi, Deb.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you
Hi,
all.
Everyone. Chris.
Good morning.
Hello, Michelle and Gordon.
Hi,
Morning, Yvette.
Dave.
Phyllis, stay friend.
Hi, Yvette.
Hi,
Nancy.
Moira. Good morning, John.
Fran, good job on the auction.
Hello.
hello.
Hi, Yvette.
Hi.
Hi, Susan.
Here, you there?
Hi.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi,
Hi,
Dina.
Good to see ya.
Welcome, Danielle. Hi, Jane.
Here comes the bing bong.
Morning.
Well, that sounded good. Now I invite you to join me in the reading of our opening words, which will appear on your screen. If you're on your phone or you don't know the words, just follow along with my reading of them. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life, a life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and for our families. And although I'll offer a further introduction in just a few moments, I will hand the mic over to our visiting minister, Reverend Danielle Webber, to pose a question for today's service. Danielle?
Good morning, everyone. I just have to say how much I enjoyed the greeting your neighbors section. That was so much fun, and I might have to try that with the congregation that I serve here. What a joy to be with you all today. I believe that there's a screen with our question coming up. Maybe not. But our question today is, oh, here it comes. How has the idea of sanctuary been present in your life? When Anna invited me to come and speak with you all, I have been thinking a lot about sanctuary over the last little while because of the people who've been experiencing the cold weather and the heat of the summer without homes and without shelter, and wondering what sanctuary might look like to them. I do invite you to share now your beginning thoughts on what sanctuary has meant for you in your lives. So if you would like to share, please raise your hand. We will also have time to discuss this question in the breakout rooms later. Mike, are you seeing any hands raised?
Not yet. If any members of the congregation want to raise a virtual hand, they can go ahead to do that. I see Moira, so we're going to go ahead over to Moira right now.
Good morning.
Hi, Moira.
Hi. Sanctuary for me means welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
We're going to either talk to Lauren and or Dave.
Hi there. For me, sanctuary, my first experience at sanctuary was Unicamp, because it was a place that I didn't have my parents, and I was really happy about that at the time as a teenager. And it still is a sanctuary. It's just a place of respite, but nature is definitely a place of sanctuary and healing.
Thank you. I'm going to go over to Dina. Hey, Dina, we can't hear you. Either your mic is muted or maybe the input is muted. We're going to go over to DG, and then we'll come back to you, Dina. Hi, Didi. You're just muted right now as well.
Hi.
Great.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think the most valuable sanctuary in my life is definitely neighborhood, and has been for 15 years. But for me, sanctuary is a home that is comfortable and big enough and affordable. And that has been really hard for myself and my children to find. I have found it in Toronto in a cooperative housing, but I still have a number of family members who do not have a sanctuary, who do not have a home they could afford to live in. So
we're going to go try Dina one more time.
Yeah, I think is this better?
Absolutely,
Yep.
Dina.
Great, thank you. You know, when I think of sanctuary, I think of the biblical Nineveh. There was a town in biblical times where anyone who was in danger of harm could go to, and they were not permitted to harm them in that town. It was called Nineveh. And then of course I think of churches where people would go and take sanctuary and nobody would harm them there. And so that's what I think of when I think of sanctuary. I think of safety and holiness.
And I think we have time for one more, two more. We'll do Yvette. Go ahead, Yvette. Yvette, if you're there, you can just unmute.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, people probably get tired of me talking about Tobermory, but Tobermory has been my spirit home since I discovered it in 1990, and it has been my sanctuary since moving here, for the safety, for the calm, for the fact that I'm nobody's caregiver. or social worker, or even daughter, really, while I'm here. So it's sanctuary from those responsibilities that darn near killed me up until a few years ago. Yeah, and I think that the challenge on a rare occasions up here is when I do need a bit of a break from things going on here, it's hard to know where to find sanctuary when you live in your sanctuary. So I find other ways of finding that place of comfort, peace, and safety. Thank
Not too
you.
bad. And I think we have Bruce is our last one here for the day. Bruce, I'm bringing you up.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, when I think of sanctuary, like I think of that I've been a member of a few men's circles, one in particular that I'm a member of right now, and it just feels like a place when I join in that circle. What I appreciate is the sense of everyone else holding space we're all holding space for one another. So we can each bring like the dark thoughts, the hard thoughts, as well as the joy and whatever else it is that we're actually experiencing, and be honest about that. And to me, that's an important aspect of feeling sanctuary.
Thank you all for sharing. That's incredibly different views and understandings. I think now I'm going to pass it back over to Doug and share with you some more later.
Thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to hand the proverbial mic right back over to Jane to introduce our opening song.
Music has been a sanctuary for me, especially through COVID. I chose this next song. It's a song called Open Up Our Hearts to See by Montreal singer-songwriter Penny Lang, who's no longer with us. I chose it for a few reasons. I like it for a few reasons. It is one that you can learn very easily and sing with me, even if you've never heard it before, which I hope you will do. It also feels like a prayer to me, this one, because of the repeating lines. And it feels like a prayer that's not, oh, I'm praying for those people over there who need help. It's a prayer for all of us. You know, we've all been through times where we've maybe lost our way, and maybe our hearts could be open a little more. So that's the message of this song. And I'm going to teach you so you can join in. Every little stanza starts with, for all of us who la 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 la. That always changes, and then it goes, open up our hearts to see. So if you don't want to pay attention to words at all, you can just sing that. Open up our hearts to see. Open up our hearts to see. Every once in a while it's going to sound different, but you'll sing the same notes. Open up our hearts to see. But you don't have to change what you're doing. And if that's a bit too low, you can sing, for all of us who've lost our vision, open up our hearts to see. It's a little bit higher. Open up our hearts to see. And if it changes, open up our hearts to see. You're singing the same notes, just that one chord might change. And if you want an extra challenge, there's one other harmony part you could sing. Open up our hearts to see. Open up our hearts to see. This one's a little more challenging because you do have to change one note. Open up our hearts to see. If you hear that nice minor chord, and just let your ears tell you if you need to go there. I actually recorded this one so you could hear some harmonies, and so we'll just go from the top. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. For all of us who've lost our vision, open up our hearts to see. For all of us who've lost direction, open up our hearts to see. For all of us who numb our feelings, open up our hearts to see. For all of us, kill the spirit, open up our hearts to see. For all of us who fear delivery, open up our hearts to see. For all of us who sell our souls, open up our hearts to see. For all of us can't stand proudly, open up our hearts to see. For all of us who hate our neighbors, open up our hearts to see. For all of us who've lost our goodness, open up our hearts to see. For us with no compassion, open up our hearts to see. For all of us who need recovery, open up our hearts to see. Open up our hearts to see. Open up our hearts to see. Open up our hearts to see.
Thank you so much, Jane. Now all the young and the young at heart, please cuddle up close to your screen because Zee has something to share with you. Good morning, Zee.
Good morning, Doug, and good morning, everyone. I want to start today by offering a special welcome to our guest speaker, Reverend Danielle Webber, and to Jane Lewis, who's doing our music. Thank you both for joining us today. So our topic today is sanctuary from the cold. As it gets colder outside, we're starting to think about those who don't always have an inside to go to. In that light, I'm going to tell you the story of The Can Man, which is a book written by Laura Williams. It's a story about two people who end up needing different things, but still kind of end up working together whether or not they mean to. A young kid named Tim and a man that most of the people in Tim's neighborhood knew as the Can Man. Tim's family remembered him as Mr. Peters, the man who used to live in their building before his work was shut down. Since then, Mr. Peters hadn't been able to get another job and spent most of his time collecting empty cans and exchanging them for money. One day, as it was getting cold, Tim's friend Mike came by and asked Tim if he wanted to go skateboarding. Tim didn't want to go because he didn't like borrowing Mike's skateboard and his brother's old helmet. What Tim really wanted was a skateboard for his birthday, which was in about a week. He even knew the exact skateboard he would choose. But he knew that his family didn't have extra money for something like a skateboard, and even though it was on sale, Tim hadn't been able to save up enough from his allowance for the board that he wanted. Then Tim heard the Can Man's cans clinking and had an idea. He had a week until his birthday. If he could collect enough cans, He was sure to be able to afford that skateboard. The next day was Saturday, and Tim went out first thing in the morning to start collecting cans. He collected cans from garbage bins, stores, and restaurants. By lunchtime, he'd filled 2 full bags of cans. It was hard work, but the thought of that skateboard kept Tim going. When he brought the cans to the house, Tim's mom asked what they were for, since Mr. Peters usually collects the can in the area. Tim uneasily told her that he was saving them for a week to be able to buy a skateboard for his birthday. So for the next week, Tim went out every day to collect cans. He went out Sunday after church and every day after school. Tim knew the can man's route and would start on the opposite end so that he'd be able to find some cans too. The next Saturday was very cold, wet, and raining, and Tim still insisted on going outside anyway for his last day of can collecting. That day, Tim happened to bump into the can man, and the two started talking. The can man asked Tim how he was doing, as he'd seen Tim out collecting cans a lot this week. Tim told him he'd saved up 7 whole bags of cans at home and was going to get himself a skateboard for his birthday. When Tim asked what the can man was saving for, Mr. Peters answered, "I wouldn't mind a new coat before the snow starts flying." With that, the can man said goodbye and pushed his cart down the sidewalk. When it had stopped raining, Tim called Mike and pulled all his bags of cans from the basement outside to wait. Mike came by on his skateboard, and as the two were figuring out how to get all the cans to the redemption center where they could be traded for money, the can man happened to come along, pushing his cart down the sidewalk. The can man offered to help them move their cans, and he pushed the cart while Tim and Mike kept the piles of bags from toppling over. It took a long time for Tim and Mike to push all the cans into the machines at the redemption center. Tim collected all the coins in a paper bag he'd brought along. By the time they were done, the can man had left. Tim looked outside and saw that it was snowing. He shook the bag of coins in his hand. They rattled like a cart full of empty cans. Suddenly, Tim took off, running outside. He ran until he caught up with the can man. Breathlessly, Tim held out the bag of coins. "This is for you," Tim said. The can man looked at Tim in surprise. "But you worked hard for your money." "It's okay, I want you to have it," Tim said. The can man blinked in surprise and said, "Thanks, kid. What's your name, anyway?" "Tim," Tim said. "Well, thanks, Tim. My name is Joe Peters." "I know," said Tim. "My parents remember when you lived in our building." With a sigh and a small shake of the bag, Joe said, "That was a long time ago." "Well, thanks again, Tim." When Tim got home later, he sat down and thought about how he might not get a skateboard for his birthday after all, but that didn't seem to matter anymore. Well, the next day was Tim's birthday, and when he went outside to wait for Mike, his foot bumped into something in a bag on the top step. The bag was tied closed with a string that was attached to an empty root beer can. When Tim looked inside, he was shocked to see a skateboard. It wasn't a brand new one, but it was fixed up, had a fresh coat of paint, freshly oiled wheels, and his name painted across the bottom. Just then, Tim looked up and saw the can man coming down the sidewalk in a new coat. He waved and smiled. "Happy birthday, Tim." Tim waved back with his new skateboard. "Thanks, Mr. Peters. Thanks a lot." Well, that was our story for today. I hope you enjoyed a tale of how two people with different needs can still work together. I know I did. Thank you for listening.
I know I did too. Thank you, Zee. This is a special time in our service and in our community when we invite you to share a candle with a joy or a concern. Thank you, everyone. It is now my pleasure to more vividly introduce our visiting speaker. This morning, Reverend Danielle Webber is with us. She is a Unitarian Universalist minister living with her family on the traditional and unceded territory of the Sioux and the Okanaga people. This is colonially known as Kelowna in British Columbia. Working as a part-time minister to the Kelowna Unitarians, as well as part-time with the Unitarian Council as the youth and adult ministry specialist, Reverend Danielle is a third-generation Unitarian Universalist who entered seminary in 2013, receiving her Master's of Divinity, as well as completing a thesis on community engagement and leadership development. As well, Reverend Danielle is co-chair of the Central Okanagan Interfaith Council Steering Committee. I'm glad that I've had my coffee to get through that one, and has supported interfaith collaboration in many of the congregations within which she has served. It's been my pleasure to get to know you a little bit in this last week, Danielle, and I know that when we touched base earlier, you referenced the rains and the flooding in British Columbia. It ends up being quite a small world after all in this land of Zoom and in these strange times. So I offer you as dry of an Ontario welcome as I can, and I hand the mic over to you for our message this morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that welcome and the invitation to join you all today, and to share words and thoughts with you all. I just want to say that I began working with the Canadian Unitarian Council this past summer, and with your congregant, Anna DeFelici. Oh, I don't think I pronounced her last name right, but Anna. And during our weekly conversations, I was talking about the challenge that I was experiencing in the congregation here that I serve in Kelowna. We are a downtown congregation in a neighborhood that is being gentrified by City Council, and we've been experiencing a significant amount of people experiencing homelessness camping on our church property. Anna asked if I would be willing to share with the neighborhood UU congregation some of the reflections that I've discussed with my colleagues, as they might serve well with the theme of sanctuary, and that you have all been exploring this month. So it is an honor to be sharing these reflections here. I've been serving the Kelowna Unitarian community for 3.5 years now. And for the last 2.5 years, I've actually lived in the house next door to the sanctuary, a house that the community also owns. This past winter of 2020 to 2021, it became very clear to the city of Kelowna that and its residents that the population of people experiencing homelessness had increased significantly from the previous winter. About a year ago, conversations began happening to discuss opening another homeless shelter because there were so many people living on the streets and the winter was upon us. The city of Kelowna had initiated a project called the Journey Home in 2018. It was its intent to end homelessness in our city by 2023. They had been making really significant steps, and they had opened up 3 supportive housing projects, as well as funding for scattered sites, which means single apartments in buildings all over the city. But with the significant troubles that were brought on by the coronavirus pandemic, as well as the problems with supply management and immigration labor to help with the harvesting that happens all over the Okanagan Valley, there was a significant growth in the people not being able to afford housing or to be able to make it home after the harvest season had ended. A convergence of all of these terrible events meant that the demographic that the shelters were trying to support had doubled. Actually, it had almost tripled in just over 8 months. The city jumped in. The Journey Home project began reaching out, and over the course of 6 weeks, 3 additional temporary winter shelters were opened last December. 2 of them actually ended up remaining open throughout the entire year and are still operating. Only one of them closed in the spring. The housing crisis in British Columbia has caused even more people to struggle with finding secure housing. In addition to the coronavirus pandemic, The province of BC has also declared an opioid epidemic in 2016. And now a state of emergency was declared last week due to the flooding that had happened. Not to mention the state of emergency we had in June due to the heat dome that sat over top of our valley for 8 days. Here in Kelowna, we are dealing with a lot of catastrophes and a lot of trauma. It was not really a surprise to me when we experienced our first camp set up on our community's parking lot. One morning, a renter arrived to the building and found 4 tents erected in the corner of our church parking lot. She called the RCMP and had them removed from the site. After that, the board of the congregation was notified and we began discussing the situation with an attempt to look through the lens of our UU principles. We wanted to recognize the inherent worth and dignity of the individuals within the tents, acting for justice and equity within our relationships, and acknowledging that we are part of a web of existence that causes individuals to experience homelessness. All of these lenses allowed the board to come to the decision to allow people to stay on our property. We began having conversations with the RCMP and the bylaw officers that were coming around daily, and we told them that we were not asking people to move along, and we did not want them to ask people to move along either. I began reaching out to the organizations within our city that offered services to people experiencing homelessness. I met with the organizers of the Journey Home Project and the executive director of a local drop-in center that offers a hygiene center and a hot breakfast, and have brought forward the situation to the local interfaith group that I'm a co-chair of. This interfaith group has been working with the city on these situations for the past 2 years. And also, we've been developing these relationships for more than 2 years. But of course, when everything ramped up as the crisis quite literally ended up on our doorstep. We arranged for outreach workers to stop by regularly to see what kind of support our neighbors needed. We installed a sharps container in order to ensure that needles and other paraphernalia were not being left around the property. We invited people into the sanctuary for our worship services. Kelowna Unitarians have been doing multi-platform services since September, so we always have people in the building on Sunday mornings. A committee was struck to liaise with the board and our new neighbors, and requests came forward about access to water and electricity and a porta potty. We were able to supply the first 2, but we decided that we could not install a porta potty. We have been lobbying the city council to have one installed across the street from our church on the city's bike trail. The relationship that has developed with the people who are living on our property has had an interesting mutuality blossom to it. As we began liaising with the individuals and learning about them, relationships started to form. Elisa, a member of our congregation and gardening extraordinaire, began teaching people what plants were weeds and invasive. And she brought seeds around so that they could start growing vegetables on our property. Kyle has really enjoyed raking leaves, and someone actually brought him a leaf blower, and things have been tidying up around the property regularly. Brooms were also brought by so that they could keep the courtyard clean, and Carrie and Todd are drill sergeants about keeping garbage out of the gutters and off of the picnic tables. Perhaps these aspects of mutuality are not evenly balanced. Like in our time for all ages this morning, it is possible that mutuality does not need to be balanced in order to be thoughtful and supportive and equal. In early October, I was virtually introduced to the executive director of the local shelter programs. She had heard about what Kelowna Unitarians was going through and wanted to meet and see how they could support our work. We were finally able to meet on October 22nd, and she ended my tour of their main location and our conversation with asking if the church community had thought about opening up the building to have people sleep inside the sanctuary. Over the last 4 weeks, the Congregational Board has discussed this possibility. How will it affect our Sunday services? How will it affect our renters and our rentals and the income that those provide? Will it create more safety on our property? Will this create a sense of ease, a greater sense of ease, or perhaps a greater sense of discomfort? Can we live with that sense of discomfort while people are living outdoors? Last night, overnight here in Kelowna, it reached -6 degrees Celsius. Can we share our sanctuary, our space of worship, the space where Kelowna Unitarians gather and experience that which is more than any of us are individually? Several years ago, Kelowna Unitarians struggled with the idea of actually calling it worship. What was it that they were worshiping? If they did not have a common belief in God, how could they gather for worship? We were able to realign with the etymology of the word worship, which means to acknowledge that which is of worth. We gathered to acknowledge the worth of being together and being called to that which is more than any of us individually. Can we offer the space where we worship together, our sanctuary, as a place of refuge to those who need protection? Again, the opportunity to realign to the etymology of our language and the words that we use. The etymology of sanctuary comes from the Latin word sanctus, meaning holy, a place set aside for holy worship. And in modern times, it's also been referred to a place of refuge or protection, such as a bird sanctuary. The English word holy is from the English Hagal of Germanic origin, and it relates to the Dutch or German heilig, or whole. So sanctuary implies a sense of wholeness and integration. I believe that if we follow this same logic of etymology, we have the opportunity to live into our wholeness, offering our sanctuary, our place of worship to people who need a place of protection, a sanctuary of refuge. Then we have the ability to become more whole, more integrated. I don't know yet what will happen, for the congregation doesn't actually take a vote on this decision for another couple of weeks. And I am not able to tell them what to do. Unfortunately, I'm not a tyrant of our community, but I do know that I have the possibility of transforming my own despair into hope. And I can offer to begin anew the legacy of caring that Doug was so aptly able to speak of this morning. I'd like to now invite you into a guided meditation. I was so touched by what Jane shared earlier, opening up our hearts to see a prayerful piece of music, a prayer for ourselves. And so perhaps this guided meditation is actually a prayer. So please settle into your seats. Take a few deep breaths. Breathe in. Hold at the top. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. This moment of prayer is an invitation to be calm in the midst of the tumultuous of the world and of our overbusy lives, to bring together thought and feeling, mind and spirit, and to find some center, some still point of perspective and peace. Here in this virtual sanctuary, which has been the home for so many secret thoughts and hopes, fears and desires, may we feel free to look at ourselves with true honesty. May we be unafraid to face the decisions we have been trying to avoid, the doubts and questions it has been easier to ignore, the things we have tried to keep hidden, not only from others, but even from ourselves. May we come to discover that there are resources within ourselves and beyond us that are as hidden, but as real as our secret doubts and fears. New dimensions of the spirit within and without will be revealed to us as we confront ourselves honestly and come to understand that we are not isolated from the community of life and spirit, but that our soul's suffering connects us to the hidden suffering of others. May we come to see that in our deepest loneliness, we are not alone. And may we be embedded by this version to reach out to others in their need. And so finally, to discover that to give is not only more blessed than to receive, but that to give to others is to receive what we most need for ourselves. Blessed be, and amen.
Thank you. In these times of isolation, let's not forget that this congregation is a living entity, and like all living things, it must have nourishment and sustenance, nurturing. If you contribute with pre-authorized withdrawals, we thank you as we contribute to the life, as you continue, and we all do, contribute to the life of this community. We affirm our lives within it. We can't pass the basket for those who make weekly contributions, yet please consider writing a check or making an e-transfer, which is the most cost-effective way to give. Consider as well doing a recurring gift. A link will now appear in your chat window, and we're going to take a moment to pause while Jane plays. Thank you, Jane. Feels like we're trading the mic back and forth consistently. So I'm going to hand it right back to you, please, for our final song.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was in the meditation. Suzanne suggested this last song for the closing song, a Unitarian hymn, I believe, called "How Could Anyone," and as an acknowledgement of yesterday's Trans Day of Remembrance. So I don't think I need to teach it since it's in your hymn book. So we'll just go ahead and sing it a few times in a row. I recorded it as well so you could hear some harmonies, and of course, please harmonize as you like. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone, you were anything less, you are beautiful. How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Wow. Well, I'm going to take a moment and thank you, Jane, and thank you, Danielle. This has been quite an exquisite treat for me with this first Sunday of service weaving. I won't say it's all downhill from here yet. I'm going to be listening to this and watching this again, and you've given me very much to consider. Thank you both for being here and for your beauty. I, at this point, would invite you to sing with our choir as we extinguish our chalice.
Although our chalice has been darkened, we hold the fire within our own hearts.
Today, I will leave you with a blessing in the words of John O'Donohue. May it be a house of courage where healing and growth are loved, where dignity and forgiveness prevail, a home where patience of spirit is prize, and the sight of the destination is never lost. Though the journey may be difficult and slow, may there be great delight around this hearth. May it be a house of welcome for the broken and the diminished. For those of you who don't wish to join us in a breakout room, we thank you for being with us here this morning. Everyone who remains will be asked to join a breakout room. Today's question again is, how has sanctuary been present in your life, and how can you expand your understanding of it? Pardon me. If you are new to neighborhood, again, you're welcome to stay in the main room, and there will be people who will hold space with you and answer any questions that you may have or any comments that you'd like to share with us. We have a tradition of circling round and holding each other's hands. We can't do that, yet instead we ask that you go to gallery view and you unmute yourself. And together we will offer a blessing to one another in the form of namaste. Thanks, everybody.
Namaste.
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 Highway.
Namaste.
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 Well done, guys.
Namaste.
Namaste. Yes. Thank you.